I don't understand why it takes you so long to get a fish in the boat. You take sometimes 10 minutes to get a 4-pound bass in the boat. You lead him around like a dog. Hey, why do you do that?
Well, Ray, it gives you, you can show your sponsors off a little longer for one thing.
Yeah, you're right. It does show your sponsors off.
I had one today. It took me about 15 minutes to get in.
Did it really? What was that? Was it a bass?
Yeah, it was a bass.
What do you mean 15 minutes?
Well, I reached down to get this fish. He was one of the better fish I caught. And I reached down a little bit too far. I fell in the lake, is what I mean.
Thank gosh nobody was there to see it.
The Bassmasters Superstars are playing Peoria again. Superstars 95. The third time the all-time greats of the BASS tournament trail have tackled the challenge of the Illinois River. The third time's not always a charm. Today, you're going to see what happens when record flood conditions scattered the bass far and wide. How the pros put together a winning game plan in a mission impossible situation. Our Bassmasters cameras take you into a flooded grain field where Jay Ellis reveals how to find a needle in a haystack, the key area where bass migrate when a river goes out of banks. You'll learn firsthand why a simple change in the size of spinnerbait blades can make a difference in getting more strikes. There's a little trick to what world champion David Fritz is doing to improve his chances to boat a 5-bass daily limit. But now, don't get the wrong idea. It's not swimming at your own risk. Oh, nice dive, David. With the best pros in the business going rod to rod, there's plenty of exciting tournament action, as well as Ray Scott's Bassmaster Casting Kid of the Week. Stay tuned. The Bassmasters are playing for pay in Peoria, the Superstar City. Superstars 95, a special all-star tournament. The gathering of past and present angling greats on the Bass Angler Sportsman Society's tournament trail. 30 of the best. To be invited, a pro must have achieved either a Bassmasters Classic World Championship, claimed a Bass Angler of the Year title, or rank among the all-time BASS money winners. The time is early June, normally a prime time for bass fishing on the Illinois River. However, Mother Nature has played a dirty trick. Floodwaters push the river out of banks, spreading 5 miles wide in some areas. Until yesterday, the U.S. Coast Guard had closed the river south of Peoria to all boating. But this morning, the ban has been lifted, and the Superstars can fish downriver over 75 miles to the LaGrange Lock and Dam, or head north some 58 miles to above the Starved Rock Lock. The two previous Superstars here were won by Denny Brower in 1993 and O.T. Fears the following June. They both fished the southern limits of the tournament waters. However, today, most of the anglers are opting to fish north of the Peoria launch point. That's where access to backwater duck ponds provides some of the best-looking areas to find largemouth bass in the late spawn or post-spawn season. And it's where 1992 Angler of the Year Kevin Van Dam scores quickly with a spinnerbait. Kevin's collected a bonus-size Illinois river bass. Largemouth over 3 pounds are above average. Under these conditions, a 5-bass limit over 10 pounds will be prized. O.T. Fears of Oklahoma won last year with 31 pounds, 9 ounces. And the year before, Missouri's Denny Brower pocketed the first place $50,000 with 28 pounds, 14 ounces. But with only 1 day of practice, the Superstars must have located a key fish holding area, figured out a lure presentation pattern, and determined if there's enough fish on hand to win the tournament. As 1974 Classic champion Tommy Martin of Texas explains why he headed north.
If the water's clear, and also that the water is somewhat lower up here, it makes it where you can get to the bank And it seems just critical to be able to get to the bank. If you can't get to the bank when these river systems flood like this, you just can't hardly catch any bass. You've got to be able to put your bait right near the bank because that's where the bass are going to be.
Tommy Martin's location is along a railroad right-of-way embankment, an area with good cover and deeper water. However, Tommy's evidently not fishing the best spot in this area. Just over the tracks, unbeknownst to Tommy, is a flooded backwater lake that David Fritz, the 1993 Bassmasters Classic champion, has discovered. Besides good average depth in the old pond that evidently has a resident population of bass, David Fritz has a real ace in the hole. None of the other contestants are aware of this spot. Although shown on Fritz's map, he was fortunate to get through the flooded timber along the river. He's pitching a plastic crawworm with a garlic scent. To the south, in the Havana-Liverpool area, Jay Yellis of Texas has also put together a solid fish-catching pattern. Yellis, the hottest young pro on the BASS circuit, is fishing a Stanley Vibrashaft spinnerbait in shallow water. He's making repeated casts to openings in a flooded milo field with grass clumps.
Well, I've got 3 of them rigged up. I got a 3/8, a half, and a 3/4, all with different sizes of blades and everything, but the one that I've been catching them on today is this one. It's a 1/2 ounce with a small Colorado and a number 7 Indiana blade. Yesterday, when the sun was out, I could see little fry just everywhere. And with the water so high, that's why this spot is good, because it's a place where the bass can actually find the shoreline and some real shallow water to spawn. And that's hard to find. I mean, you could run probably a 10-mile radius around us here and not find the shoreline anywhere. It's just a little high spot out in the middle of all this flooded cover. I think a lot of these fish are, the little male bass are guarding their fry, and I'm catching them on the spinnerbait. Haven't caught any big ones yet. Well, I've had a couple of fish just kind of, I'll be reeling the spinnerbait in and they'll just come up and bump it like they're just trying to knock it away from the fry. If I make a repeated, some repeated casts in the same spot, I can usually get them to hit.
There's that key explanation again. When fishing high water, get to the bank. Find a shoreline where the bass can be hemmed up. Sounds simple, but at the day one weigh-in, former Superstars winner Denny Brower explains it's not so routine.
How do you know where the heck to start?
Well, I've always felt the key when water gets this high is to find a place where you can get to the bank, and that's what the fish do. They're wanting to get in a certain depth of water, and you got to find that depth and something for them to more or less a stopping zone.
Best creel of the day, 5 bass and 9 pounds 15 ounces belongs to David Fritz. He's the only angler thus far to find his way into that backwater pond. But Robert Hamilton of Mississippi is only 2 ounces behind. His 5 bass limit came from a flooded duck lake located down south. Jay Yellis checks in 9 pounds 8 ounces in 3rd place with 5 bass. And Zell Rowland of Texas ranks 4th, scoring 8 pounds 14 ounces on 4 keepers. Zell earns a bonus $1,000 for the day's big bass, 3 pounds 13 ounces. George Cochran, the 1987 world champion, is 5th with 8 pounds 10 ounces. Denny Brower ranks 6th, only 1 pound 10 ounces behind the leader. Stay tuned. The Bassmasters will continue in a moment with more how-to tips and tactics for river bassin.
Now don't come off.
Tournament leader David Fritz is known as a crankbait specialist, but in Superstars 95, his lure choice is a plastic crawworm rigged Texas style. His presentation is slow, methodical, pitching to targets and shaking it through the brush.
The water's up so high, them fish can be all back in there and you can't even get to them. If it's down a little bit, they'd be out here on the edge, it'd be a lot easier to catch. This pond bass are strange. Seems like every good fish I've caught, I've threw in there, just threw and threw and threw and threw, and all of a sudden, he'll bite.
The water level is dropping in Jay Yellis's flooded farm field, but the bass are holding in the grass.
I'm catching my fish real shallow. They're all in, I would say, 18 inches of water or less up in this shallow flooded grass. And a lot of the fish are up in there that looking to spawn. With the water falling so fast, I think a lot of them haven't spawned yet. I was thinking yesterday that a lot of them had because I was seeing a lot of fry, but those fry that I'm seeing they're not bass fry. These fish they're super shallow. That's the key to catching them. 2 weeks ago when I come up here to pre-fish, they were on that point. I caught made one pass down that point and had like 10 keepers in one pass on a jig. But it's deeper out there. They were kind of a pre-spawn area. They just moved in. They're holding on that point. In the 2 weeks since the tournament went off limits, they've moved up into this shallow flooded grass, which is, a good spawning area. The spawning areas are few and far between this year with the water so high. There's very little water that's shallow. And that's what's good. This area is not only shallow, but it's got a lot of good flooded cover in it. And the bass are in there. I think they're just cruising in the area. I think there's a lot of fish here. It seems like there are. Like right back there, I caught those 3 in a row. I think they're just kind of cruising in little wolf packs, moving in to feed, and they're getting up in that real shallow 1 foot zone and just cruising it back and forth. I'm catching most of my fish way back up inside the grass, way up by the bank. I haven't caught anything on this outside edge of it.
David Fritz's strategy in the flooded pond is different.
What I'm trying to key in on is these good fish are on the actual water, the low water or normal pool line is where they're at. Everybody else is fishing the banks, and there are some fish on the banks, but the quality fish right here on these outside bushes, outside limbs, and a little bit deeper water, they're a little harder to catch. So when you catch one, you ain't got to measure. Yeah, that's a fish. Yeah. That's another big one. But it's cool right here. Stay on there.
Well, we've all heard of the famous Fritz Blitz. Now we've seen the infamous Fritz Flip. A tip of our cap to Bassmaster photographer Amos Postoke for capturing a classic moment on the tournament trail. Don't go away. The Bassmasters and David are coming right back.
You ain't flipping this, are you?
Superstars 95, a gathering of 30 of the all-time bass and greats. The Illinois River, June 8th through 10th, 1995. A test for the best. Flood conditions, rising water, now falling, dropping 7 to 8 inches daily. Spawn, post-spawn conditions. The tournament waters span over 130 miles. So many parts to the bass catching puzzle. So little time. What's the solution? Zell Rowland, the 1986 Super Invitational winner, is working his plan. He's caught the tournament's big bass so far, a 3-pound, 13-ounce largemouth.
The fish are just like today, pretty much scattered out, and it's real tough to get a bite. What I've been trying to really key on in this tournament, knowing it's tough and there's very few bites to get, is trying to fish a few of those areas that most anglers probably wouldn't really fish. You know, similar to this one here and where I've been casting up in behind the docks, where most anglers wouldn't care to fish because they don't want to throw over that walkway.
Robert Hamilton, the 1992 world champion, boated 12 keepers the first round from this backwater duck hunting lake, now accessible with water running over the levees. His early buzzbait bite has fizzled. Now Bob's flipping a Berkeley power crawl worm into flooded willows. The bass seem to be spawning, suspending in the branches. He's using a 25-pound test monofilament to haul them out. But the best game plan appears to be the ones being worked by David Fritz and Jay Yellis. David, with a 2-day score of 21 pounds 6 ounces, leads Jay by a margin of 1 pound 5 ounces. The other contenders need big strings. George Cochran in third has 17 pounds 15 ounces, followed by 2-time Angler of the Year Jimmy Houston with 17 pounds 8 ounces. Denny Brower in fifth has weighed in 15 pounds 12 ounces. Bob Hamilton ranks 6th, and Zell Rowland is in 7th place. David Fritz is sticking with his Zoom crawl worm with the pinchers dyed a chartreuse color.
The little deal I got going is most of these fish right here on these outside bushes you can't see. They're on the original shoreline And I don't think anybody else is fishing like that. And I think that's one of the keys. I mean, you catch a few up against the bank, but most of them are out here. Who knows? I may even throw a crankbait in here before the day's over.
For 3 days, Jay Yellis has fished the same 150 yards of flooded grass. His spinnerbait pattern is holding up.
Got to spoon feed it to them. They just don't want to run out and eat it like a real fish. About the 20th cast I made in there. Not in the exact same spot, but same general area.
But with a falling water level, Jay's making some adjustments. More strikes are coming on the outside of the grass.
I'm just going back and forth through the same water, and the fish they're just on the move, constantly swimming through this cover, and that's why you can go back through the same water and catch a fish that wasn't there 10 minutes ago because he was down the bank somewhere. And this water falling 10 inches a day like it is, they're constantly on the move. They're biting better today than they have any day so far. I think this water keeps falling, and it's pulling them out of that shallow flooded stuff, getting them out here on where they're accessible. There's a little access for you.
Oh, gosh, what a fish. This is a giant. I mean, this is a big one. This is a 5-pounder. Oh, man, he's got me all tangled up. That right there is him, fellas. That is him.
I got that big sucker. There's my 3.5-pounder right there. Thank you, Lord.
Superstars 95 with a final weigh-in before a jam-packed house at the Peoria Civic Center. George Cochran of Arkansas takes center stage.
3 bass. Boy, did he want those other 2.
Well, I had a chance, Ray. I had 3 or 4 more just like that jump all over my buzz bait, but they didn't get it.
3 bass alive, and boy, look at these 3 bass. They're probably the 3 largest bass of this tournament, people. Look at the total weight. 10 pounds, 1 ounce. Mark it. 10-1. There's your new leader.
Jay Yellis bags a 5 bass limit. He needs over 8 pounds to take the lead.
The only man that can beat him is the guy that's coming behind him. 5 bass, all alive, and the weight. He's taking the lead, 10 pounds and 3 ounces. Jay Yellis, you are the winner, unless we come through with our friend out back.
David Fritz has been on top the leaderboard for 2 days. He's got to weigh in at least 8 pounds, 15 ounces today.
David, man, I tell you what, you led this thing for 2 days, and it's still a heck of a finish.
Well,
Let's get your weight first. Folks, look at the weight. 7 pounds and 4 ounces. He's a pound and 11 ounces short of the win. The winner is Jay Yellis right there. We'll bring him up in a second.
yeah, I had a good tournament, Ray. I had the opportunity, I had the place, I had the technique, I had the bites. I just didn't execute real well. I should have jumped in again today, I guess.
Superstars 95. The champion, Jay Yellis, with 15 bass and 30 pounds, 4 ounces. An outstanding come-from-behind performance. Jay earns $50,000 and his second BASS career win. David Fritz, with 28 pounds, 10 ounces, pockets second-place money of $23,000. George Cochran, Robert Hamilton, and Guido Hibden round out the top 5.
Then we take the victory lap. All right. 30 pounds, 4 ounces.
Right now, it's time for the Pros Pointer, the how-to section of the Bassmasters. Brought to you by Wrangler Rugged Wear, geared for the outdoors.
I'd like to give you a little insight into what I was doing to win the Superstars tournament this year. I caught all my fish on spinner baits, but I had to mix it up a little bit and use different sizes of spinner baits with different blade combinations to really fine-tune my approach. I used my half-ounce spinner bait with the big blades on cloudy days or when I wanted to get a little bit deeper presentation. And if the sun was out and I wanted to fish real shallow, like a foot or less, that's when I'd go to my smaller spinner bait. So just try to match your bait to the daily conditions. If it's a dark, overcast day, use a bigger spinner bait because you might get a bigger fish on it. But if it's a calm, sunny day, a lot of times scaling down to your 1/4 ounce will get you more bite.
Next week, the Bassmasters head to northeastern Oklahoma and the Grand Lake of the Cherokees. Plan to be on board. You'll learn the pros' techniques and tactics for catching bass before the beds. A textbook study in springtime bassin'. As Tommy Martin, Ken Cook, and Jay Ellis battle it out for the Bassmaster Oklahoma Invitational Championship. We'll see you right here on TNN Outdoors. The Bassmasters has been brought to you by Ranger Boats, still building legends one at a time. Zebco Quantum, the top names in fishing. Bill Lewis Lures, the Rattle Trap people. Loran,